Welcome to the Dr. Erin Show. May you live your truth. Good morning from Los Angeles, California, teaching consciousness, awakening, and this great game of life. Today's topic is on how to have a great conversation. So years ago, I'll never forget, I was at a dinner party, and it seems like my entire life I was very attracted to charismatic people. I loved entertaining people. I loved the big nature of people that had great stories and would walk in a room and sit down at a dinner table and dinner party and begin to just put on their show. And I remember some years back, I had like an epiphany. I was at this dinner party and all really wonderful people. And the person I was with was, were they a good person or not? That's a whole other story. But the point is that we were at this dinner table and they began to take the stage and they began to tell some incredible stories. Incredible story. They were masterful at their storytelling. And it dawned on me that, this is all about them. And it didn't matter who was at the next dinner party or the next function or the next conversation. It was all about them. And I realized that if I was going to be with somebody like this, that I was going to have a lot of expression. And it started to really boil up in me. It became a major issue. And in that moment, I realized the distinction of being interesting and being interested, and what a great conversation truly is. I have clients that will come in a lot with relationship issues, and it always comes down to communication. It always comes down to communication. I love the art of communication because when people are fully expressed in their relationships, it gets better. And I'll never forget a mentor of mine, when I was going through the hard time in that relationship, they said a distinction. They said, if you have to suppress your communication, a relationship will never work. You will always implode on yourself because you have to be expressed and you have to be able to talk about your emotions. You have to be able to communicate whatever's going on for you. And if people don't hold a space for you, then you will implode on yourself. And at that point in time, I realized, me too, that I needed to hold a space for my partner to be able to express whatever was going on, whether I liked what they were saying or not. So let's break this down, how to have a great conversation. So this is energetically, conversation is really an exchange of energy, an exchange of personalities, an exchange of experiences, an exchange of value across the board. There's so many levels to a good conversation, but in my opinion, a great conversation is when somebody is interesting and interested. And there's different communication styles. Sometimes people who are big communicators and kind of the life of the party and dominate, and they're very interesting, they need to be with people who are not that, they're not that dynamic, so that it kind of balances out. It doesn't have to be 50-50, but it has to be to the place where people are expressed at the level that they need to be expressed in their communication. So imagine it's kind of like a tennis game. Imagine that you're on the tennis court and somebody hits the ball and it goes over to the other side, and then the other person hits the ball back. Well, it's not really fun when you hit the ball and someone can never hit it back, or when someone is hitting the ball too aggressively at you and you're not able to hit the ball back because they're just coming at it at a different level. So we want to find partners, whether it be in business, whether it be in friendship, whether it be your, partner in life, your intimate partner. We want to find partners that we're compatible with. So how to have a great conversation is really finding somebody that you are, that you align with. And this is the most important thing for a great conversation. There's nothing better than when you have a deep conscious conversation with someone who can bring value. They're someone who's really fascinating, someone who's interesting, someone who I learned something from, or I'm entertained from, or I'm touched, moved, inspired from, and vice versa. I want to be somebody who is able to bring something to the table. Oftentimes in my life, I never thought in stories. My family just didn't think in stories, whereas my dad's brother side of the family, they thought in stories, and they're very entertaining, so entertaining in their storytelling. And so I realized that if I want to be a good conversationist, I not only want to have some stories to bring to the table or third-party stories of people other than me. I want to be able to have something interesting to talk about, some topics, some opinions, and some takeaways for people. And I want to be able to ask people the right questions, as an interviewer, that's what I do. I want to be able to ask questions. If I'm in an interview and I'm just asking, so how was your day? It's not going to be that exciting unless I just happen to have a really dynamic, guest on the show. I need to draw out those great conversations. And so being someone who's interested in someone else, you want to become a little bit intuitive of what it is that they would want to talk about. And you can see they light up or they're kind of like flat in their response. So being interesting and being interested. It's a very basic distinction, and yet it's so profound. I feel like in my daily spiritual practice, there's things that we can take on daily, or there's things we can take on, practices we take on for the rest of our lives. And I believe for me, this is a distinction and a daily spiritual practice for the rest of my life. I'm forever going to be honing my skills of being somebody who is interesting and interested in every conversation I come across, whether it be walking into the gas station to say hi to the attendant, or whether you're sitting down for an interview or at a dinner party. This is a mastery. You are a work of art, and who you come into, who your presence is. You leave people when you walk away from a conversation. You're either going to be memorable or not memorable. And I promise you that being interesting and being interested is very important. For me now, I look for those qualities in people, and there's nothing better when someone's really interested in you. I love when people ask me questions about me, because I'm always so conditioned to ask people about them. And it's flattering. People get flattered when you ask them about their life. What do they do? What are their hobbies? What's their darkest moment? What was the funniest thing that ever happened to them? What was the most embarrassing thing that happened to them? What, if they were to sum it up in a 2-minute, elevator pitch, what do they do? What are their passions? Asking people and drawing out them something that they may not even ever thought of themselves before. That's a great conversationist, right? So on that note, I just know the truth is we could just take a moment to have an affirmative prayer, tapping in, taking a deep breath in through the nose and out the mouth. You can close your eyes if you want. I recognize that all of life is a communication, that it is an energy exchange of expression. And that as we come together and we have new formulas, we have charisma, we have chemistry between people. And this is what sparks that new polarity and sparks a new creativity. And you have the ability to be that conduit, to be that platform, to be that mediumship for people to awaken to aspects of their own soul and their own expression that they've never had. And so I know that as we surround ourselves with people that raise us up, and as we raise other people up in our conversation, that new things are birthed within our soul, and that you are an artist in your communication, that you are the most fascinating thing if you tap into who you truly are. And so I know and I recognize today is an opportunity to be a great communicator, to have a great conversation. Practice and call somebody up. Practice the art of conversation, having a great conversation, and knowing that today is that day. Today is that day to express yourself, express your emotions, express your desires, express your passions. And so I know with certainty, you are the perfect conversation. Your life is a conversation with the entire universe. And so I know this, release this, knowing it is done. So today's daily spiritual practice, because every day we have a practice, is to go within in meditation or in prayer, whatever, and practice listening. It's really meditation, to just listen to your higher self. So many times we go into meditation and we are trying to get something out of meditation. We're trying to communicate something through prayer. Go within and practice simply listening, going into the silence, getting comfortable with the silence and the unknown, and just being with listening in the silence. And then today's challenge as this game of life is to shut up and get interested in whoever it is in front of you. Stop dominating conversations and beginning to listen and become interested in who's sitting across the table from you, who's on the other side of the phone with you. Who is that? Just stop your own, forcing of life and expressing yourself, and begin to allow others to express themselves. That is an art. So if you have enjoyed this conversation, please share it with somebody. You may have many people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to share this one. I know lots of people that need to learn and develop their communication skills. So send this to your best friend, send this to your partner, send this to your business partner, send this to whomever you feel like needs to be more expressed in their communication, because as people become more communicative, they just naturally become happier. And we know this through therapy and counseling and things like that, that the more people are able to just talk therapy can be awful and people look down on it, but talk therapy has a place. People just need to express, and oftentimes they'll work out their problems just by talking about it. So on that note, you can find me at erinfallhaskell.com. You can find me at drerinshow.com. You can find me on iTunes, iHeartRadio, all of the above. Please private message me. Let me know what you want to talk about, anything you're going through, so that we can further this conversation as a community. You guys have a great day, and may you live your truth.